All right. I'm working with a new webcam, so if I look like shit, sorry, I'm still kind of getting the settings together. But we just wanted to hurry up and get this out because this video was supposed to happen, what, 2 or 3 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
And my webcam just popped a cyanide capsule for no reason. So, but we're here now, and I think everything is running smoothly.
It pulled a Silva.
Yeah. only only it didn't make it out. It's more Silva at the end of Skyfall rather than after the cyanide capsule.
It's more like the guy in Captain America that pops one when he chases him down.
Yeah. Or the guy that went after Ozymandias in Watchmen.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy.
God, what is it with comics and cyanide capsule pop?
Because it's so outlandish, so comics are like a great place for it to be.
Well, speaking of outlandish, that's the perfect word for what we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
So we decided that I was wondering if you wanted to keep up the horror theme I'm doing throughout October, and we came up with a whole list that we're going to do throughout the month. A few of which you're already prepared for.
Which
So
is funny because when we first made the list, there was a lot of movies I didn't have access to, and then Amazon Prime and Netflix updated, and that changed.
I had a feeling that would happen when it changed over because I think it was still in September when we made the list, and I was like, why do I feel like in October you're going to suddenly have access to a lot of shit?
Speaking of Netflix, maybe you or the comments can clear something up for me. Why on Netflix right now is the only movie not available from Monty Python, The Meaning of Life? They
I
have
don't know.
Live at the Hollywood Bowl, they have Holy Grail, they have Life of Brian, No Meaning of Life. Because I watched Holy Grail and I was going to follow it up with Meaning of Life, but they didn't have it.
Wonder if it's like a studio thing.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
It says the meaning of life is universal. I don't think the others are. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
How convenient they were just right back there to confirm that.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, this is another case of we were talking about when we talked about Jackie Brown, and then our last video was the Kill Bills. It was like I did a whole Tarantino series when we started this, but it sucks. So I'm just trying to slowly redo it. And this is another step
It,
in it.
it obviously put me in a Tarantino mood because I watched Reservoir Dogs today.
Yeah, I didn't yet, but I got the itch to watch Reservoir Dogs like a couple of days ago, but I ended up doing something else.
It's definitely one of those movies that, like, at first you're like, is it really as good as the rest of them? And then you watch it and you're like, yep, it sure as fuck is.
Yeah, that's the way all his are. I forgot. Well, I revisited it for the first time in a while, Death Proof, to do this video,
Mm-hmm.
and I forgot how much I loved it. Like I watched Death Proof a few nights ago. I may very well watch Death Proof again before the week's over.
I know a lot of people say it's his weakest, but I think it's one of the most fun. Kurt Russell's a fucking ball.
Oh yeah, it's like definitely one of my favorite Kurt Russell performances, if not my favorite Kurt Russell performance. I know that's a high bar, but that's how good he is.
Every time Kurt Russell works with Tarantino, it's gold.
Yeah,
Like they only know how to make gold. Like we talked about last video. I fucking love John Ruth.
yeah.
John Ruth is awesome.
I still when my webcam started to die, I frequently thought about John Ruth saying horse shit.
Oh man.
So I figure we're basically talking about three different movies here. We're talking about Planet Terror, we're talking about Death Proof, and we're talking about Grindhouse,
Mm-hmm.
which is so interesting. This whole experience is. I talked about Kill Bill being a unique experience as a whole.
Well, I thought we had an injury, but he just jumped off funny.
But how crazy is it to be able to be talking about one movie and three movies simultaneously? Because obviously, when Planet Terror and Death Proof were released on DVD, and when Death Proof went to Cannes, they were individual extended movies, and then they were cut down and pieced together for Grindhouse with the fake trailers thrown in.
Grindhouse as a whole is what, about 3 hours?
think it's like 3 hours and 12 minutes or something.
Mm.
And me and you were one of the lucky few that got to see Grindhouse when it was in theaters, because if I remember correctly, it did very poorly in theaters.
It did.
Probably
I would have loved the experience of watching Grindhouse at the drive-in.
Yeah, I knew somebody, or I talked to somebody that got that, and I was so incredibly jealous.
It's a great drive-in double feature,
Yeah,
especially Death Proof.
yeah. Do you remember the theatrical experience as vividly as I do?
Maybe I remember Nicolas Cage's Fu Manchu.
Yeah, I think still to this day, the hardest I have ever laughed in a theater is the Don't trailer.
Well, of
Because,
course, it's Edgar Wright.
yeah. And it's especially when you're familiar with trailers like that. Like, remember, we rented that video of House of a Thousand Corpses, and it had the trailer for The House That Dripped Blood on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that trailer was more memorable than House of a Thousand Corpses the first time we saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all we talked about afterwards. But I suppose if you just want to go in very chronological order, we can start with the Machete trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Which is unfortunate because I don't really care for the Machete movies.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of a drag that he took what was a great joke and extended it not just once but twice.
Do you know what my favorite thing? I haven't seen the Machete movies, but do you know what my favorite thing about them is? The name of the sequel is called Machete Kills.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing of the whole Machete series.
And they tease a sequel at the end of that one called Machete Kills in Space, I think.
No.
And it's, it's like, I mean, technically they're going in the right direction, but it's still, I don't know. I think it just worked better as like a one-off joke. Kind of like how, remember there was that point in time where Eli Roth was actually going to make Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that didn't happen because it's just perfect as a trailer by itself.
And plus, there's already like Thanksgiving out there.
Yeah. I mean, we have talked about how much we love the fact that the killer is dressed as a pilgrim and uses an axe.
Yeah.
And Eli Roth's own performance as the narrator of that trailer is perfect. But yeah, I think
is that the trailer that also has somebody saying it's blood and Michael Biehn just goes, "Son of a bitch."
Yes, that's the Thanksgiving trailer.
I couldn't remember when I was rewatching Planet Terror. I couldn't remember if it was Planet Terror or Thanksgiving that happened.
It suits both movies.
But both of these movies suit Michael Biehn as well.
Yeah. He's one of those cases where there's actually something, it might sound like it's annoying, and to some people it probably would be. The DVD has a special feature on it, like an audio, that's an audience reaction track that is an actual audience recording in Austin, in like an early showing. And it's interesting to see what the crowd goes crazy for. And one of the things they went crazy for was when Michael Biehn walked in. Because it's like he's so perfectly suited for it. Not only just the character itself, but like the deadpan humor. There's some of the stuff like the son of a bitch from Thanksgiving, and then there's also the thing when he says that they're leaving and he says he's driving and his car explodes and just completely deadpan. I'm riding with you.
There's also the plot twist that he reveals when he's like, "I didn't know you were El Rey."
Yeah, there's a lot of things that Rodriguez captured here perfectly that go in line with that kind of over dramatic thing, because it's a lot of people I think complained about it, or the more like, I guess more so the critics complained about it, that they didn't think Grindhouse was grindhousey enough. They thought Planet Terror was too Rodriguez or Death Proof was too Tarantino, and they didn't quite get what they were going for.
Death Proof is very Tarantino because when you watch the actual extended version, 90% of it is dialogue.
Yeah.
It's very dialogue heavy.
And it's mostly like with Death Proof, it is the case of it's probably Tarantino at his most indulgent, but which would usually be a bad thing, but Tarantino at his most indulgent is better than like 99% of screenwriters.
I think the other interesting thing about Death Proof where it sticks out is Tarantino's never really tackled something like that where his main focus and the driver of the conversation is women.
Yeah.
Like
I
in
had heard there.
Kill Bill, a woman is the star, and in Pulp Fiction you have Mia Wallace. But this movie, Stuntman Mike's just like he's a background player for the most part until he shows up and does his thing.
Sometimes very literally.
Yeah.
Like the scene in the diner.
Yeah.
But I still think, like, I could imagine, despite how over the top, like gruesome and like an exploitation movie Planet Terror is, I could definitely see Death Proof as like a Grindhouse movie of that era. Because what's interesting is when you watch movies that are actually from the Grindhouse era, it's shocking how many of them are kind of boring. And so it's like the fact that these kind of, I almost feel like, not that Death Proof is boring by any means, but as far as not action happening, makes me feel like Death Proof is a lot closer to it.
Yeah, because Planet Terror moves pretty. Planet Terror doesn't really stop. Like
Yeah.
once Ray and Cherry Bomb get in the car accident, we're pretty much full stop to the end.
Yeah. But then there's because there's also actually, do you want to go into Planet Terror in full, and then we'll go into Death Proof in full?
Yeah.
So I've as far as like which do you remember how you felt about Planet Terror the first time you saw it?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Didn't really grab me like the rest of it did. The when I rewatched it for this though, I had a lot more of an appreciation for it.
Yeah, I think what it is this is, I especially feel weird saying this about a Tarantino movie, but I'll get more into that when we talk about Death Proof in full. But as far as the movies themselves, I much prefer the extended Planet Terror. Like I feel like almost too much is missing in the Grindhouse cut. Yet I prefer the Grindhouse cut of Death Proof over the extended one.
Yeah, because it cuts out that entire black and white scene with the girls when we first meet the second set of girls.
Yeah, and like not that that's not great in itself, but as far as like the flow of it, I feel like the cut down Grindhouse cut kind of good. My ideal version of Death Proof is the Grindhouse cut, but the lap dance stays in. I think that's pretty much Grindhouse or Death Proof at its most perfect, probably. But I do like some of the extra Stuntman Mike stuff we get, like when he's lurking outside of Guero's, or when he's like stalking around Rosario Dawson at the gas station. Because that is something. The one reason we need the gas station scene is it's confusing in the Grindhouse cut when Abernathy recognizes him later. She says something like, "Hey, that's that guy," and it's like, how does she know him? But as far as starting off with Planet Terror, I do think it's interesting. You know who's really who's kind of a standout in Planet Terror is Naveen Andrews. Because it feels like when it starts off, it seems like Abby's like the main villain. And then we get the whole ball scene with Bruce Willis. I can't remember, was Bruce Willis in the advertising?
He's on the poster.
Yeah, I remember he's on Planet Terror's cover. I couldn't remember if he was on Grindhouse's or not.
I'm not sure.
Or if he was in the TV spots.
I'm not sure.
But
Planet Terror was my introduction to Jeff Fahey.
Yeah. You had been spared the Lawnmower Man because you were lucky. But does everything look good to you? You're kind of choppy to me right now.
Yeah, I'm choppy, but you're fine, and the audio's fine.
Oh, all right.
You know what surprises me about Jeff Fahey, though? I'm surprised, and there could be a reason for this. You'll probably tell me there's a reason for this. I'm surprised. I just rewatched or not rewatched. I watched for the first time the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, where like it's supposed to be like the direct follow up, the one that's famous for "Do Your Thing," cuz that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm surprised no one thought, hey, let's have Jeff Fahey play the original dad of the family.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude fits.
Yeah, and he's it's interesting also that he's in Planet Terror since he's also in the Machete trailer.
Yeah.
Because he's played up to be like I believe he's the role in the Machete trailer that De Niro is in the actual movie.
He might be. Him and Michael Biehn double dipping. And they play brothers in Planet Terror. Coincidence? Like, one of my favorite things that Jeff Fahey does is when he's tasting his barbecue sauce and he's like, oh, it's salt. That's it. Michael Bihn's just like, it's your blood.
Yeah. I was trying to remember who it was. We showed Planet Terror to one of your friends, and they loved Jeff Fahey, and I can't remember which friend of yours it was.
I can't remember either.
Actually, I think I do remember, but we won't like say names publicly because But what do you think about all the assorted characters in Planet Terror?
It definitely feels like almost like a Walking Dead type vibe where you have different personalities coming together. And then you've got extra shady people going on, like Dr. Block.
Yeah, I was gonna say you like pretty much anywhere you go could be an antagonist.
Yeah, especially with Dr. Block. Dr. Block is straight up insane.
Yeah, he almost feels like the villain in many cases until a very long period where he disappears.
Yeah.
And it's even to the point where, as far as like every character at every turn feeling like a potential antagonist, that goes all the way down to the crazy babysitter twins.
Yeah.
Like why are they insane?
It also could go for Josh Brolin too. Josh Brolin in any movie, you're waiting for him to just be your antagonist.
Yeah, because we have their intro, and I kind of like the whole thing where I think this was something that was missing from the Grindhouse cut when their intro where they wake up and it's like to them it's basically morning, but then they open the shades and it's night because they work the night shift.
Yeah.
And it's like we get that whole thing about how she's cheating on him with Fergie.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that's the only threat he poses was, oh no, he's going to find out about an affair. But then it's like, oh no, he's actually insane. he's actually potentially deadly.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing that we learned that she is Earl McGraw's daughter, because why not keep making these worlds get bigger?
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, we've seen in all these movies, including Death Proof, Earl McGraw is the one that knows everything. He is able to lay out every single thing with just a little bit of clues. Even his character in Django does that. And it's like, of course,
Earl McGraw makes it maddening to try to figure out the Tarantino timeline.
Yeah.
Like you think of all the places Earl McGraw's been, what he's seen, you almost have like a fucking stroke trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And it does feel like it's come full circle though, since we first met him in From Dusk Till Dawn, which was another Rodriguez Tarantino collaboration. So it's like it feels like everything's right with the world that he's in both stories here.
Yeah.
I also love talking about some of the side characters, the non-actors that Rodriguez pulled in. Like where's him? He's been in a few things, but like the Doctor. Yeah. And he's in The Perks of Being a Wallflower of all things.
I forgot he was in that. It's been a while since I've seen it.
But people like the Doctor that's with Brolin,
mm-hmm.
I think is his actual doctor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Like Rodriguez's actual doctor.
Huh.
And so and I love some of the stuff he gets to do, like the moment when he's showing all the different pictures, and Nicky Cat's like, "How did you fix that?" And they just do the cut symbol, and there's actually a cut in the film at the time. And it's when Nicky Cat shows his tongue, and the guy's just like, "Oh, nice."
Do you know who I feel like would have fit in really well in Planet Terror? He's a Tarantino guy, but I would love to have seen him fit into Planet Terror.
Who's that?
Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
Like, what if Walton Goggins played Tarantino's character?
Oh yeah, of course. I was going the Michael Biehn direction, but it's like, oh no, of course he'd be the rape.
Yeah. Dude, Walton Goggins is one of those actors that every movie he does, he's just better.
Yeah. Another non-actor is what was his name? Skip, the strip club guy.
Yeah.
I think it's Rodriguez's like real estate agent, and that's his actual personality apparently.
Huh.
Also worth noting during the doctor scene that you can get a sense of it on the audience track, but also Rodriguez mentions it specifically that obviously Planet Terror goes all out in the gore factor.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it was the moment where Brolin squeezes Nicky Cat's tongue and it like squirts onto his glasses.
Mm-hmm.
The way the audience reacted to that is when Rodriguez said he knew that he had them. Mm. It's like if that got a huge reaction, the rest of the movie would too. I do feel the need to express my admiration for the commitment to Marley Shelton's numb hands being basically throughout the rest of the movie.
Oh yeah.
And how it's like its own obstacle when usually it's the kind of thing that would just sort of, oh, it's for this scene and then it goes ignored. Which would fit perfectly in a movie like this. Like, bad continuity would perfectly fit in a movie like this. So I love when they actually commit to stuff like that.
Yeah, you think the extent of it is when I'm guessing she broke her wrist in the car door?
I think so, which is really unpleasant.
With all the gore, that's the scene that makes me the most queasy.
Yeah.
But I think it's because the rest of it is so... Well, the other most disgusting part is when Brolin's finally affected, and Nicky Cat just, like, rubs the goo all over his face. And then it's, like, hanging there by his mouth, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure some of it got in his mouth.
Yeah, probably.
Which is lovely. So, what do you think of Freddy Rodriguez as an action hero?
The whole thing that gets me is just, I didn't know you were El Rey. It cracks me up. I know it's supposed to be cool, and it is cool, but it cracks me up when he's going through the hospital to find Cherry Bomb, and at one point he just runs and backflips off the wall. Yeah. It's not Steve Martin and Man with Two Brains funny, but it's close. Steve Martin and Man with Two Brains is the funniest backflip ever put to film. Yeah. It has to be, right?
It's hilarious that we did a video on that before this. So we're revisiting that.
We're keeping the continuity. We're making references to other jokes we've made in other videos. We're world building.
But talking about the continuity, I'm wondering where you stand on this, because I mean, obviously it depends on the movie. But the fact that Grindhouse in itself is especially Planet Terror, is basically this ode to these movies that existed in this time where logic wasn't everything. Like, the audiences are so laser focused on everything having to be logical now. Mm-hmm. That you can't really make over-the-top movies like this without people complaining that they're unrealistic when their full intention is to be unrealistic.
Nobody wants to suspend their disbelief.
Yeah, it's like, wasn't that the whole point of movies to begin with?
Yeah.
So it's really nice that this movie just kind of exists to take us back to an era like that where you just literally can do anything just because it looks cool.
Yeah. When you talk about that being a Tarantino stan, are you referring to whenever Django blows away Calvin Candy's sister and everybody's like, oh, she wouldn't fly back like that?
Yeah, I still don't get why that was so analyzed. It's,
Mm-hmm.
and you get stuff like, another thing I think of is in the Machete trailer when Cheech whips out the shotguns and fires, and it just cuts to a car exploding. And stuff like, Ray backflipping off the wall. Even that is over the top in its own way.
And when he slits that guy's throat, but he like backs up like and walks to the side to avoid the blood getting on him. But later he's slicing and dicing everywhere and doesn't really pay any attention to where the blood's going, but somehow it still doesn't get on him.
Yeah. And he never once in the movie ends up infected. He dies by getting shot.
Yeah. He takes the Night of the Living Dead way out at the end.
Yeah. Which I am representing.
Mm-hmm. That's what made me think of it.
And now that you bring it up, let's talk about the Tarantino scene. I don't have any confirmation, but are you and I on the same page here? His Ava Gardner monologue to Rose McGowan,
mm-hmm.
and his I've seen me a stripper with 12 toes, I've seen me a stripper with something else, but I ain't never seen me a one-legged stripper. Are we under the impression Tarantino wrote his own dialogue?
More than likely.
Because it's either that or Rodriguez knows exactly how to write for him, because there's also the Tarantino scene in Desperado where the dialogue is full Tarantino. And I just wonder if Rodriguez just really knows how to write him or if he's just doing his own dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Because either is believable.
Which is funny because in his own movie, Death Proof, his dialogue's not all that Tarantino. The most Tarantino it gets is when he says chartreuse, the only liquor so good they named a color after it.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it, you got lines like, well, who's Stuntman Mike? He's a stuntman.
I do love when he's when he's gonna go rape Cherry, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I'm gonna go get my dick wet. And then there's that later scene where Bruce Willis is calling for him, and the guy behind him is just like, he's getting his dick wet, sir. I love that we don't even escape fake trailers in it, because there's the whole women in cages might be real. I'm not entirely sure. But I love that there's still like trailers in the background of Planet Terror.
It kind of reminds me of in Jackie Brown, the girls with guns thing.
Yeah, which I believe was made specifically for the movie, so it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning over the top things. You were talking about Naveen Andrews earlier. Naveen Andrews' end is quite over the top.
Yeah.
Where his head just explodes.
Yeah, he has such an interesting character to him, because like I said, he seems like in the beginning he's the main villain,
mm-hmm.
but then as the event, he disappears for like the whole middle, and then when he comes back, he's basically a good guy, and it's kind of a downer when his head explodes, because he's like the one dude that knows.
Mm-hmm.
But I will always remember my initial reaction to that in the theater, because I love how it comes from out of fucking nowhere.
I think if I remember, he just like peers around a wall.
Yeah. It's just a simple, let's see if the coast is clear thing.
Yeah.
And we really have to give props to Rodriguez, because this is most of his movies, up to and including like Sin City. Just how independent Rodriguez has remained.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's still little touches out there, like the three cops are Michael Biehn, Tom Savini, and that third guy. That third guy is the original El Mariachi.
Hmm.
And it's like ever since then he's been making movies at these low budgets, with these, a lot of practical effects, but a lot of green screen, but it's all like in this confined way, and he edits in his editing room is his garage. Like, it's all a very independent thing, yet he makes these movies that feel massive when they're really not.
Yeah.
And he's all over the damn credits. He's obviously the writer director. He's a producer. He's the cinematographer. He's an editor. He did the music. He's sprinkled throughout the credit roll.
Mm-hmm. But he never shows up in front of the camera.
Yeah. And there's a moment in the credits where he's credited.
It's like Tarantino. It's like Tarantino's like, I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna be in my movie.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's also the cinematographer of Death Proof, which is something he hadn't done before and hasn't done since.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you've got Robert Richardson on standby, you take that.
Yeah. Sally Menke didn't edit Death Proof, did she?
Yeah, she did.
Oh, she did. Okay.
So is that pretty much Planet Terror in a nutshell? Because there's not a lot to say about Planet Terror because it just really speaks for itself.
We haven't said anything about Rose McGowan.
Yeah.
And the ridiculousness that she somehow has a gun that can fire rockets.
Yeah, I'm like that's the thing. Is like, how amazing is that? I mean, yeah, it's like it's a take on Ash, obviously, but it's so much its own thing that I don't, because there are those things where you can see homages and references and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The machine gun leg is such its own thing. It's only a vague afterthought to think, oh, it's an homage to Ash.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's such its own thing, its own crazy ass thing.
And let's not forget, this all started because of the insanity that Freddie Rodriguez just broke off a table leg and just stuck it in her nub.
Yeah. And a very underrated line is when she's like crying when she first sees what happened, and Ray's response is, "Would you quit crying over spilt milk?" But yes, I do love. It is a shame all that she went through and where she's at now, because she was actually a great action heroine in this.
What's really funny too is like people like Freddie Rodriguez, Michael Biehn, Jeff Fahey, Naveen Andrews all die. The survivors are people that you think wouldn't survive. Even the Block's kid dies in a pretty shocking scene.
Yeah,
but who are the survivors? Mrs. Block, Cherry Bomb, which you kind of figure. The babysitter twins survive.
Yeah.
They seem like characters that should have been axed off.
Yeah.
There was some other random dude. I don't remember what he did, but he survived.
Just, was it Skip flew the helicopter, so he lived, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And then Earl McGraw, obviously.
Yeah.
There was
I can't
remember.
It's so crazy how much of a curveball is thrown with who survives.
I think Saxophone Guy lived, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah.
We don't even meet Saxophone Guy until they're all in prison together.
Do you feel like, going back to what I mentioned earlier and judging by your reaction, do you feel like the way that I can't remember his name. I'm just gonna say the Blocks kid.
Tony.
Huh?
Is it Tony?
I think. Do you think Tony's death is really dark for a movie like Planet Terror?
Yeah.
Do you think we went a little dark there?
Have you heard the stories behind that?
No.
Well, first off, that's Rodriguez's kid in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the thing where it was so dark, he didn't want to do that scene with anybody else's kid. So he basically took the bullet, literally. And he actually didn't know, the kid actually didn't know that he died in the movie, because that's a dummy that's got all the blood all over it.
Yeah.
So he shot scenes with him at the end. And so the kid believed for a long time that he just survived the movie. And it was just a separate cut of scenes that just weren't used.
Oh.
And it's like, I think he even says on the commentary that it was basically going to be like just a 1-through thing. Like, okay, when he gets a certain age, Santa Claus doesn't exist, the Easter Bunny doesn't exist, you died in Planet Terror.
What an interesting way to approach it. But that's the one scene, like, when it happens, I'm like, oh, I don't know if we needed to go that dark.
Yeah. Because it's hard, like, there's that weird scene where she's in a trance and she's like still talking to him saying, I told you not to do that.
Mhm.
And then it's just done. He's just
Yeah.
never mentioned again.
It's such a dark moment in a movie that otherwise is really super fun.
Yeah, because I remember when we first saw it, and I think I even heard somebody in the theater when Marla Shelton says, don't point it at yourself, you'll blow your own face off. And then she walks away, and like she's walked away for 10 seconds and the gun goes off. Your immediate thought is, no way. There is no way that just happened.
Yeah, you think the gun just might have gone off like in the air.
But at the same time, there is something darkly funny to it that she said, don't do that, you'll blow your own face off. And he did it immediately.
Yeah, I guess in that context of it, yeah.
But it's shown so, like, it's not shown in a comedic way at all.
No, it's very, like, foreboding.
Oh, Rodriguez, you psychopath. So yeah, and that's what's weird is that's even dark for Rodriguez movies in general. Because they're so, like, stuff like Desperado is so over the top, but so joyously. So, is there anything else that we missed?
I think we really have hit it all now. I think we would have been remiss if we would have gone back and realized we didn't touch on Rose McGowan or Tony's death.
Yeah. All right, so
is it a reference that his name's Tony and his haircut looks like Danny Torrance?
Oh shit, it probably is. Because he's even, like, when he's playing with his little action figures, kind of gives you the vibe of when he's talking to Tony.
Yeah.
And you've got the mom that's, like, always wringing her hands and is scared of the dad.
Mm-hmm.
And the dad is genuinely dangerous. Oh my god, it's like a whole Shining thing.
Oh my god, Josh Brolin as Jack Torrance would be amazing.
Oh my god, yeah. We get glimpses of it here.
Yeah, sign me up.
I think if Josh Brolin played Jack Torrance, Dr. Block is exactly what it would look like.
Probably. But here's the drawback with Josh Brolin, and I told you this before, especially when Josh Brolin was chosen as Cable. But mainly that was because I was hoping that Pierce Brosnan would have been Cable. But because it would just been hilarious to see Pierce Brosnan in, like, a Deadpool environment. But Josh Brolin is typically, for me, Josh Brolin is a boring choice for things because I know he's already going to be great.
It's Bryan Cranston syndrome.
Yeah. It's like he's cast. It's like, man, that's a boring choice. He's going to be great. I'm going to enjoy it, but man, it's boring because I know he's going to do great with it.
Yeah, it's completely a criticism of Hollywood. It is not in any way a criticism of the actor.
No, because Josh Brolin's genuinely great.
Yeah.
I would say, a lot of people, point to, like, Andy Serkis as Gollum as the best, like, voiceover CGI character. Josh Brolin as Thanos is right up there too.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin as Thanos is on another level.
And let us not forget that Planet Terror was in the year of Josh Brolin's life.
Yeah.
Because he did this, American Gangster, and ended on No Country for Old Men, and his career has never been the same. His career, ever since then, his career has gotten to where it's gone.
Yeah.
And then it was only the following year, immediately, that he got his Oscar nomination for Milk.
Yeah.
So he had his Prestige, and he had his blockbusters, and he's been consistent with that ever since.
Yeah. The dude only has a hiccup every now and again.
And like, even then, he's probably got a better movie.
What's his biggest hiccup recently? Like Gangster Squad? Which, not saying there's anything wrong with Gangster Squad, but as far as, like, successful movies that he's done, that's not very near the top of the list.
Yeah, because I'll stick up for Sicario 2. It has its critics, but I'll defend Sicario 2. But do we go on to Death Proof now?
Yeah, let's go on to Death Proof.
Yeah, because let us not forget as we make this transition, he was filming this. He was filming Planet Terror when he auditioned for No Country for Old Men,
Hmm.
and Tarantino shot his audition video.
Talk about the ultimate favor.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that with that, Brolin's never worked with Tarantino.
Yeah, apart from this.
Yeah. Well, technically, Josh Brolin's not in Death Proof. Marley Shelton is.
I meant this as far as his audition tape for No Country for Old
Oh,
Men.
yeah. I'm surprised they haven't worked together in like an official capacity. I mean, Josh Brolin would have been right at home in something like The Hateful Eight.
Yeah, if his next movie's really his last one, he's got a lot of people he needs to work with.
Yeah. But at the same time, I could see him going with like old favorites that have stuck with him over the years. His Umas, his Samuel L. Jacksons, his Tim Roth.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
We said Tim Roth at the same time.
I would love him to bring Harvey Keitel back too.
Yeah. Yeah, since Scorsese just did, it's Tarantino's turn with him again.
Yeah.
All right, so we touched on Death Proof a little bit, because some of the things I already wanted to say, like I prefer the Grindhouse cut, but it's ideal with the lap dance in it, because I feel like as far as like those songs that Tarantino makes popular,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what's really interesting is Down in Mexico is like at the top of that list,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that I always forget the lap dance scene isn't even in the Grindhouse cut.
Yeah.
That we did not see that scene until the DVD came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Not the Beast scene from The Wicker Man.
Yeah.
Nobody realizes it's on the director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel about the first set of girls in total? Because obviously they have to be, because he's setting up the ones that die. He's setting up a set of slasher movie characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that there's certain criteria for that kind of character, even in a Tarantino movie, because obviously Tarantino takes something that we know but makes it his own thing. But it's like, now that he's in a genre doing a specific style for the purpose of this movie, like Grindhouse in total,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to intentionally hit the cliches before you can do your own thing.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about this first group of girls?
They definitely fit the mold. I think the most interesting thing too is you have all of this setup for all these different characters, like you said, in your typical slasher movie, where the slasher movie would be spent taking these characters out one by one. All four are gone at the same time in a matter of seconds.
How brilliant is that? And this of course isn't counting. I think her name is Gwen, the Rose McGowan character.
Yeah.
So it's one and then the rest. It's like Casey Becker, then the cast of Scream. Though we say it that way, but like obviously Casey Becker falls into like the Janet Leigh category.
Mm-hmm.
I would say technically the Janet Leigh of the movie would be. I always say Vanessa Ferlito, but it could really be her or Jungle Julia.
Yeah,
Because
because Jungle Julia is definitely positioned as like the leader of the group.
yeah, and she gets that moment to herself where she's like texting,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to see like a different side of her. And it's like it's like the more that's going on with a character, the longer they'll supposedly last.
Yeah.
So he's setting up like these red herrings everywhere of who the final girl would be, except for the fact that they all die.
Mm-hmm. And then it flips it right on its ear where when he goes after the second set, they all survive.
Yeah. And it's such
one is completely removed from the danger. And then the other three not only survive, but they take him out in the most brutal way possible.
Though Mary Elizabeth Winstead is not necessarily out of the woods. Are we or are we not to assume Jonathan Loughran might be playing the same character from Kill Bill?
Oh,
who
maybe.
we know is a rapist.
That's possible. He might have called Buck over.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because this is clearly pre-Kill Bill if that's the case.
Mhm. But
So,
and it's also interesting where the tables turn to the point where Stuntman Mike thinks he's won, and then he flees. So you would think, oh, the girls got away. No, the girls go back after him.
it's
It's like
that
a
case.
complete reversal.
Yeah, it's kind of that case of the crazy babysitter twins and Planet Terror, who are at the bar in Death Proof, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like it's weird. It's crazy in the best way in both of these movies how anybody could just suddenly be insane.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like we've known through the whole movie through massive, massive amounts of dialogue that these are pretty much normal girls within their own setting.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they're put in this situation, it's, oh, we can commit murder now. Like here's the thing: is Abernathy is the one that kills Stuntman Mike. She's the one that drives her foot through his head.
Yeah.
Of all the people in the group, she's the one that's a parent.
Mm-hmm.
They set up that she's the mother, so she's the one that has to stay behind, and she's the one that fucking kills him.
And she's the one that instigates it whenever they're because Zoe Bell and is it Tracy Toms? Is that who the other one is?
Yeah.
They're just like, wow, that was kind of crazy. And then Abernathy's the one that's like, let's kill this bastard.
Yeah.
Like she wants blood.
Yeah, because Zoe just said, do you want to go get him?
Mm-hmm.
And Abernathy's like, yeah, let's kill him.
Yeah, because I think Zoe Bell's character is only half serious.
Yeah, until she runs and gets the pipe. Then we know she's pretty serious.
Yeah.
The pipe that she does end up using. I love the way when he tries to drive away, her response is, "Where the fuck do you think you're going?" And then you just gotta love the whole idea of Zoe Bell having been around, having been Uma's stunt double in Kill Bill,
Mm-hmm.
and Tarantino just loved her so much. It's like she could actually be a character.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like she's like the most memorable character, one of the most memorable characters in it.
Yeah, and she's made her mark as like her own person in several of his movies.
Yeah.
We've got Hateful Eight. We've got she was in Django, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she was supposed to have a bigger part in Django, but with the length, it all kind of got cut down. She
Is that the
has
one where she's masked the whole time?
yeah, there's like a backstory where it's like she's missing her jaw or something.
I just figured Django Zoe Bell was just really good at coronavirus.
She didn't withstand bullets though, so that's unfortunate.
She's the stunt coordinator in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is fitting casting.
Of course.
Where she's teaming up with Russell.
Yeah, they're married.
Yeah. And she scolds him in front of God and everyone.
It's like Kurt Russell will never get the best of Zoe Bell. She will always have control of him.
Yeah.
She will have power over him.
Mm.
So, but going back to the first part of the story, how do you think it works as a horror movie?
It's pretty effective, especially in the longer cut where you see the stalking.
Yeah.
Like the way that Stuntman Mike is incorporated into the background where he's not obvious. Like if you're looking for him, you'll find him. But if you don't know he's supposed to be there, you blink and you miss him.
Yeah. I always love it's a very horror movie shot when I think it's Vanessa Ferlito sitting outside the bar when it's raining and Warren turns the lights on and like the one light just illuminates his car seemingly by itself, and that the score sounds like Friday the 13th score or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then I love that they build that up and we see the stalking, and the brilliant thing that Kurt Russell does is when he's actually starts interacting, because when the first cut we get of him when he's eating the nachos, he's still like kind of stalking, but then when he starts actually speaking, he's like super charming.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I love how they're able to mix his charm with the potential danger. Like when they're outside and she's talking about like his scar and he's like, "Do I frighten you?" And there's obviously something really dark about him. But then when she says the car, he goes back into funny, charming mode when he says, "Yeah, it's my mom's car." And the way he's able to go back and forth between charming and funny to potentially threatening.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell how they get sucked in by him because you can never quite tell what he actually is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Warren endorsed him to give Rose McGowan a ride home with not knowing anything about him when they started.
Yeah.
Man, I wonder how many questions Warren had to answer.
Yeah.
Maybe Warren had to drop out and join the military, and that's what happened in Planet Terror.
Oh my God, of course. Yeah, because there's that whole thing where they're supposedly in the same universe,
Yeah.
which is confusing. Because there's the in memoriam to Jungle Julia on the radio on Fergie's radio in Planet Terror right before she turns it off.
Yeah.
And
I think if I remember right, I think there's a Jungle Julia billboard in Planet Terror. I could not find that word. I think there's a Jungle Julia billboard too.
I think so. And there was a rumor for a while there when the movie first came out that you could see Stuntman Mike in one of the hospital rooms in Planet Terror, but number one, I never found him, and second, I think that was eventually debunked.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been cool, but I think it's not true.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the crossover of Marley Shelton being in both stories and Earl McGraw being in both stories and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy Babysitter Twins. But still, the timeline is fucked because what is it? 14 months later is when the second part happens. And it's like, isn't the world supposed to have ended in Planet Terror?
Or maybe just Texas ended.
And that could be. I don't know.
But we don't know how far back the first part of Death Proof takes place before Planet Terror. Because let's say it takes place 2 years before Planet Terror. 14 months later, you're still before the Planet Terror timeline.
Yeah. They must have really loved Jungle Julia to be talking about her death that long.
Could have been like an anniversary.
I'd say that, or is she like, yeah. But this is the thing, though.
Or maybe she was the Sharon Tate of her time.
That could be.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since, well, obviously it eventually got buried, but the fact that like the law was suspicious of Stuntman Mike surely got out in some news outlets.
Yeah, in that regard, Stuntman Mike was the Carol Baskin of his day.
which is why he fled to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder, is he just fleeing to like, does he flee to a different state every time, do you think?
I don't know. I've often wondered, like in Death Proof, when like over the end credits, it's just random shots of women. I've always wondered if those were supposed to be like Stuntman Mike victims.
Yeah, I think I looked up once who exactly they are and what that purpose is, but I don't remember what it was. But I like going with that theory.
Mm-hmm.
That's also another way that makes me wonder if Arlene, the Vanessa Felito character, is supposed to be the Janet Leigh. Because a shot that I always thought was interesting was when he takes the pictures off the visor and throws them onto the road.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was interesting that she's the only one that lands face up. Like she's a specific target.
Yeah.
But
which is interesting because she's the only one that really interacts with him in a decently respectful way.
Yeah. So I would say if the movie was only the first half, like if the characters from the first half were the entire movie, and it was a regular slasher movie and not this Tarantino near masterpiece,
Mm-hmm.
that it would be her that would be like the final girl.
Mm-hmm.
And Jungle Joe would be the one that's like the second to last.
Yeah.
Jungle
Julia would be the surprise death. right before Vanessa Ferlito, where you think they both survive. And she's the surprise death that sends us into the final battle.
Yeah.
But no, they're all done.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. Talking about the way Tarantino uses music is obviously one of his trademarks.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing also is a lot of people really try, especially in horror movies, to repurpose songs. Like, take a song that's not really that threatening and make it like, oh, I forever associate it with this thing now.
Everybody's still trying to pull off what A Clockwork Orange did with Singing in the Rain.
Yes, that is a perfect example. And what's funny is that's not even a horror movie, but it's the perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is a lot of people don't accomplish that.
I'll give another movie credit for doing that. Halloween with Mr. Sandman.
Yeah.
I'll give credit there too. That's a newer example than Clockwork Orange, and that's more along what you're talking about because Halloween's actually a horror movie.
Yeah, and it's a case of there's actual proof that when you hear Mr. Sandman, the first thing I think of usually is Halloween.
Yeah, same.
Even though it didn't start being a regular in the series until Halloween 2, but still it get caught on.
Yeah.
Even though it is not in any way that kind of song, Hold Tight has forever been ominous since this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
There's like it always, even though it's not that kind of song at all, I get a very ominous feeling when I hear it because all I can think about is fucking car wrecks.
And here's the other interesting thing too. Stuntman Mike, when he kills them in the car wreck, they all die in different ways as a result of the car wreck.
Yeah. The car wreck goes full Tarantino, showing us over and over again, getting every angle of it.
Yeah.
And
it's like an extremely condensed version of the Jackie Brown Mall scene.
And I've mentioned this before, and I will mention it every time. I was squeamish for a long time, but there's not many movies anymore that have a scene where I have to look away. Vomit notwithstanding. I can't look at any vomit scene, obviously, but as far as like gore goes, for some reason, I can't watch Affleck's head explode in Dogma. I can't watch Pesci's death scene in Casino.
Can you watch Naveen Andrews' head explode in Planet Terror?
Yeah, I flinch, but
it's essentially the same thing. Actually, Naveen Andrews might be a little more graphic.
Really?
Yeah.
And to add something to that list, I cannot watch the car wreck in Death Proof. I'm okay until Vanessa Ferlito loses her face to the tire. That I can't deal with. So.
What's funny is Lena Frank is the one that had the least interaction with Stuntman Mike, and her death is the most minor, I guess you could say. She just gets severe whiplash.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I'm going to get her name wrong. Shanna.
Yeah, Shanna Banana, not Shauna Banana.
Yeah. Shanna goes through the windshield. Vanessa Ferlito loses a face, and Jungle Julia loses a leg. There's 2 leg amputations in this little series.
Yeah. There's, I believe it's even the same leg.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that makes it scary is the fact that would be so easy to do to someone. Just drive at them head on and then flip on your lights at the last minute.
Yeah, especially if they're distracted.
Yeah. If they're distracted and it's a 2-lane road where there's no one around. And going back to Stuntman Mike and his change, I'm going to use this term. I use a lot of wrestling terms. Stuntman Mike's heel turn is really well done.
Oh, you mean are you going left scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of the best villain reveals ever.
Yeah.
Because because we were talking about, is he threatening or is he charming? And all the way up to him saying the word immediately, he's still in his charming voice.
Yeah.
Actually, no, even better. Him saying this car is 100% death proof only to get the full benefit is still in his charming voice.
Yeah, it's very like conversational.
He's literally in the act of killing her, and he's still in charming mode.
Mhm.
But then obviously we see the darkness when he just watches her die, and then that feels like it was the full turn into the charming facade is gone now.
And he tries to turn on the charm again with the second set of girls when he gets out of the car. And he's just like, that was fun.
Yeah. And the big question is, was he really
I
just
feel like when he yells that line, he's like channeling Tom Hanks.
Do you think he was really gonna leave?
You know, it does make you wonder. There wasn't really a benefit to him leaving until he got shot.
Yeah. Unless it was the fight gave him something like new he was looking for he didn't know he wanted.
Yeah, that's true.
But then, and speaking of
or
other
the fact
things,
that it was car versus car.
yeah, almost like a respect thing.
Yeah.
But speaking of the things that Stuntman Mike enjoys, another another thing that gets brought up a lot when people discuss particular movies are food scenes. And what's weird is this is something we brought up a lot, but I kind of thought we were just weird. But I've heard it brought up in other places.
Which is
Everybody wants Warren's Nacho Grande platter.
it does look tasty.
Do you remember when we were watching the movie one night, and after that scene, we paused it, went to Taco Bell and got nachos and brought them back and finished the movie?
Yeah.
That was like at 1 a.m.
Dude, whenever I go to a restaurant and I order nachos, Warren's Grande Nacho Platter is like my standard. Like that's what I grade nachos on. And there's only one place that's even come close to looking as delicious as Warren's does, and that's Permanis. You've never had Permanis nachos, have you?
Mm-mm. That one time when I just had that one sandwich.
We're gonna have to fix that next time you come up.
Assuming everything is normal.
Dude, I'll mail them to you.
But what's great about this also is how amazing they look. But the most of the shots we get of them, they're being shoveled into Kurt Russell's mouth.
Which means they must be that good. He cites it as a reason to go to a bar.
Yeah. Dude, as somebody that's not much of a drinker at all, Stuntman Mike's night sounds amazing to me.
Drinking non-alcoholic drinks, just taking in conversation and eating nachos. It does. It makes you want to go sit at a bar and just chill.
So,
except for the whole pick up a random girl and murder her.
Yeah, and then 4 more. That's yeah, the whole car wreck thing. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, but for him, I imagine he's sitting in his busted ass vehicle after that accident, just going, worth it.
Yeah.
I feel like Stuntman Mike's reaction is like in the first Deadpool when Deadpool wastes the bullets, and he's like, stupid, worth it. I feel like that's how Stuntman Mike views that car accident.
Well, you heard about the extended scene, right?
Extended scene.
And apparently they film. I kind of want to know where this footage is, just out of morbid curiosity. Apparently, they actually shot a moment where after he has killed them and he's in his flip-over car, in the movie it fades out and goes to the hospital scene.
Yeah.
There was a scene filmed, just to give you the full idea. There was a shot of Stuntman Mike in his overturned car jerking off before it cut. But they were like, number one, that's a little too much, and number two, we get why he does it. We don't need a visual cue. We
Earl McGraw will confirm it in a couple minutes.
Yeah. So that takes us into really the convenience store scene. like I said, I don't mind the convenience store scene by itself. I just like it. I like the idea that it was cut out of the Grindhouse cut because it helped the flow a lot. Like it's crazy how much it feels like is gone when you think about the Grindhouse cut going from, like, if I remember correctly, Earl McGraw talks into the airport scene. And like his voiceover's still going while Stuntman Mike's taking pictures of them at the airport. And then it just goes from there. And it's like to cut from the hospital to the airport feels like such a massive jump when you know the extended cut so well.
Yeah, because that convenience store scene's what, almost 10 minutes?
Yeah, and there's one thing about it that just makes me say, like, but why? Maybe I'm missing something.
You know why. Rosario Dawson's barefoot in it. You know why that scene's there.
Well,
Don't act like you don't know.
Well, the thing that throws me off is what is that whole thing with Nicky Cat as the clerk that's like selling magazines under the counter? Like, what's that whole thing?
Just Nicky Cat doing weird Nicky Cat things.
Another person where, unless you are aware of the extended cuts, you don't realize is in both movies as well.
Yeah.
But that was like, is there more to that I'm not catching on to, or is
I
it
think
just
it's just a character doing weird shit in a Tarantino movie.
Because it kind of makes him look shady at first, and she's like put off by him, but then it turns out that he has something she wants.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're actually, oh, well, all right. And then we have the whole
Do you know what I
introduction.
want in life? I want this in life so much. I want Death Proof to be in the background of a Tarantino movie where we get DiCaprio as Rick Dalton playing Stuntman Mike. I want that in my life.
How perfect is it that Tarantino made a movie where a stuntman is the villain and then made a movie where the stuntman saves the day?
But also could have killed someone.
Yeah. A woman, no less.
Yeah.
So, but talking about when all the characters are together now, once Zoe does show up, a lot of people say, well, obviously Zoe is a great character, and the fact that she does those actual stunts is insane and incredible. But a lot of people say the standout character of Death Proof, apart from Stuntman Mike, is Kim, the Tracy Thoms character. Like that whole segment where she's like explaining why she owns a gun. But I also love how she's like balanced, like how she talks about, well, yeah, of course I love Pretty in Pink and John Hughes movies. I'm a girl, but I also love this stuff. And I love the moments how Kim is so tough through the whole movie and has that tough exterior. And Abernathy even comments and says, like, you're not like this in private, you know. But I love that moment where the facade drops really briefly when they're in the middle of the road and they're getting ready to set up the game and they're using their belts. And she's like, okay, Kim, give me your belt. And Kim's response is, but this is my cute shit. It's like to balance that out with like the hard ass that she is. It's like a great, just, there's so many facets of the character that I love. And the fact that she reaches her own bit of insanity when she's ready to ramp off the road with Stuntman Mike when everybody's like, even Zoe is like, this is probably going to kill us. Zoe, the person that so desperately wanted us in this situation in the first place. And even the way they talk to each other in that sense, when they're about to do one of the most dangerous things ever, and they're doing the whole "I'll be your best friend" thing to get her to do it. It's like the interactions are kind of perfect because there is a realism to them leading up to this very outlandish scenario.
Yeah. And I think what else is crazy about the second set is the first set, it makes sense. Stuntman Mike attacked during the night. This time he's attacking during the day.
Yeah, and when how they can see him coming this time.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's like two separate things he does. Like, I wonder if there's a certain set, like, if he doesn't plan on fully going the full on murder out with them, where he's just gonna fuck with them like that, is what he does during the day, and the night is reserved for murders. If it's like a whole setup or something.
Or
That's what I love.
maybe that's his way of laying low. Like like in the first instance, he killed all of them. This time, he's not going to kill them. He's just going to fuck with them.
Yeah, that's the great thing, is there's so much mystery around what exactly it is that he does, because we do get an idea that he stalks them, he takes pictures of them, and he gets off on it. But there's still so much mystery to his method.
And usually, like in a slasher movie, usually there's a little bit of backstory revealed as to why a slasher is the way they are. And with Stuntman Mike, you don't get that. You get Earl McGraw's explanation that he gets off on it, and that's all you get.
Yeah, I love the fact that we get like charming Stuntman Mike in the first half, and the way he's able to like kind of put himself in their environment. And then in the second half, when he's just off the grid until he attacks, is also amazing.
Not only that, but once he gets shot, it's a complete role reversal. He spends the rest of his screen time screaming his head off.
Yeah, and it's like instantaneous. Like, it's not like it doesn't like dawn on him that he's in danger. It's just immediate.
Yeah. It says, "Oh, I done fucked up." Screaming.
Isn't it great? I don't know if you noticed this. I think we talked about it before. In Bastards, at the end when the theater explodes, and there's that shot of the guy on fire that flies out the window and he screams. Can you tell that's Stuntman Mike's scream? Like, it's the audio from Death Proof.
Yeah.
It's like, once you know, you can't unhear it.
And it's funny for a director that's not really known for doing those kind of scenes. The car chase is shot very well.
Yeah, you can tell he like really, really, really taught himself before he made the scene. Like, it's
because it's definitely it's out of his wheelhouse. I mean, the biggest thing he'd done with a car before that was when Vincent runs his car into Lance's house. That's the biggest extent that we got of a car chase.
There was Marcellus getting hit, but in that whole incident, but yeah, you could tell he like really like took himself to school for that, especially since he's the cinematographer on the. But it's like, that's sort of like how the standard for, like, obviously there's standards throughout time, because obviously, as they mention a lot, car chases and stuff like that and effects like that were the common thing in a certain era, like Vanishing Point and the original Gone in 60 Seconds, all the movies they mention.
Yeah.
And throw in some of the, all-time car chases like Bullet and The French Connection and the 7-Ups and all those.
Not to mention all the car stunts with the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah. And that one in The Man with the Golden Gun that's legit. And the fact that, I don't remember where I was going with this now, but it's it's like up there with those. It's like, yeah, you had certain standards, and like those kind of disappear from time to time when stuff takes there. Like, there's even the conversation he has with Rose McGowan where she says CGI, and he's like, well, unfortunately today that'd probably be right. So it's like, when John Wick came out, that was suddenly the standard for all action movies. Like, don't do the constant cutting. Let us actually see the fights, choreograph them well. When Death Proof came out, that was the standard for every car chase. And that may not have gone away yet.
Yeah.
So it's got to be up there with like absolutely the all-time greats. Like, I wouldn't even question that. Like, Tarantino is one of those people where he can set out to do that kind of thing, where like, if just some average whatever director was like, I'm going to make the best movie ever, this is going to be the best scene ever, it's not going to be. But if somebody like Tarantino knows where the standards are and says, I'm going to do that, and it's going to be one of the best ever, he can. and he has proven that time and time again, and he's certainly proved it with this car chase.
I would say the only other director who has more of a varied filmography than Tarantino does, probably James Mangold.
Yeah, Ang Lee is up there.
Oh, yeah.
James Mangold and Ang Lee are like the gold standard of what the hell are they gonna do now?
Yeah.
But and the great thing also is the car chase, and it was always billed in all the advertisements and the way they built it up as a big car chase. Technically, it's two, but it's one full sequence, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably 20 to 25 minutes of the movie. Are you like me? And I've watched the car chase in Death Proof so many times, it feels so short.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole thing is great, but I always get so like it never, no matter how many times I've watched it, which is enough for it to feel like it's 2 minutes long, which is a shitload. I always get the same level of hyped when they ramp off onto the highway, and like all the motorcycle dude flies into the building, and then there's actual other cars there. The hype never dies for me, no matter how many times I see it.
I just love that there's like a movie theater sign that I think is playing Scary Movie 5.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Is it 4?
And I don't think I've been able to catch what the second one is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, and then and it's like watching the 3 girls in the car basically feels like they're basically the audience at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like they react to the same things. Like when Abernathy says, "Did you just hit a boat?" is the kind of thing an audience member would say.
Yeah.
And it's the way Tarantino is able to just be so in tune with his audience, unlike any other director. Like every time I go into it, like when I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as much as I did, I wasn't surprised at all. And it's because it's like it feels like Tarantino's so in tune with his audience. It's like before you go in, he has catered this directly to you. He has made a movie he wanted to make that he wanted to see, but he also knows exactly what his audience wants. And when you walk into it, like Tarantino movies feel so personal to me because it's like when Tarantino fans walk into a movie and watch it, it's like he made it just for you specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, like I said, this is considered a low tier for him, but they're all up there in that regard. They all have that kind of effect, just in varying degrees.
And they all have something to contribute.
Yeah.
Like there's always something you could point to and say, maybe you didn't care for the movie, but you really liked this part of it, thought this was cool.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people that, felt that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was kind of boring, but then it got to the end and then they were like, it's the most Tarantino that ever Tarantino ever.
And it immediately makes you want to watch the whole thing over again.
I don't know. I don't know how you could call it boring because Rick Dalton is just so balls to the wall in that movie.
Yeah, and then it's like it can never possibly be boring because you love following Rick Dalton, you love following Cliff Booth, and Margot Robbie obviously has her own charm also, and we're just alternating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just nonstop. I don't get. I mean, I guess I can get it if you're not like, but it's we're just on another plane if you're not into like the Tarantino universe. So
it's one of those things that if you don't like a Tarantino movie, chances are you're not gonna like any of them.
Yeah, it's like
He's just not gonna be your cup of tea.
Yeah, I think I talked about this when we talked about the movie itself, but there was that time where The Hateful Eight was coming out and Ben Mankiewicz interviewed Tarantino. And Ben Mankiewicz said, "How would you feel about somebody that said they thought Jackie Brown was the best movie that you made?" And Tarantino's response was, "If somebody thinks that Jackie Brown's the best movie I ever made, they probably don't like my movies." So, which by the way is nothing against Jackie Brown. It's just it feels so different from what he usually does.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, as we talked about in that video, it still feels like him through and through. So,
I've always thought Jackie Brown was underappreciated.
yeah, thankfully, people have said that enough now that it's starting to get its due.
Yeah,
It's starting to do over the past few years. So, it'd be nice if that could happen to Death Proof soon. It's the one kind of lagging behind here. But yeah, it's
definitely. I think it's his simplest movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue to sit through, but the plot is very super simple to follow.
It's in chronological order.
Yeah.
Which is that the only one?
Now you got me thinking about it. Other than when Cliff has the flashback to being on the boat, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in chronological order?
Yeah, I think it might be. And there's those occasional flashes to Sharon training with Bruce Lee. Oh no, the Bruce Lee scene's a flashback.
Oh yeah.
Well, that would have been dumb.
I know, because I saw an article today that Bruce Lee's family is still upset about that scene.
Yeah. If we had not acknowledged that the Bruce Lee scene is a flashback, I would have realized that about 1 o'clock this morning and then not slept tonight.
Well, I mean, you could still make the argument that it's not big chunks told out of order like the rest of the movies are. Like Reservoir Dogs that I watched today, half of Reservoir Dogs is flashback.
Yeah, I remember the first time we saw Reservoir Dogs was with Owen, and he had already seen it. And he basically had to be our timeline guide.
Yeah. But now when you go back and watch it, like, it's super simple to follow that compared to some other movies with messed up timelines.
Yeah, especially once you're versed enough in Tarantino. Reservoir Dogs is like, well, yeah, of course this was his first one. This was his first rodeo. It's so obvious now.
But it's just so funny because Tarantino is like known for that, and now you've got Christopher Nolan creeping up saying, "Wait, I can play this game too."
Yeah, from what I hear in Tenet, it's to a fault, but
Is it?
Its Blu-ray releases in December, so that's probably when I'll find out.
Yeah.
Since Regals are closing again, so I don't have to worry about it anyway.
Oh, they are. I didn't know that.
I don't have to worry about that. There, all those classic releases. I was so tempted, but I wasn't going to risk it. So now I don't have to be tempted now. So
I saw that last week. Hocus Pocus led the box office.
Yeah. Did you see where the Batman moved?
Yeah.
The Batman moved and Dune moved.
Yeah.
Which I think No Time to Die
will probably move again.
It's already No Time to Die moving is what I think prompted Regal to close.
Ah.
So, yep. So we're pretty much done with the actual releases this year. So we'll see what. Hopefully, Nomadland gets a streaming release because Nomadland is like the front runner in award season right now.
Are they even going to do an award season this year?
Supposedly the ceremony is going to be in April and the cutoff date is February something. I haven't heard otherwise. People are setting their campaigns up, so see what happens. Obviously, the Emmys managed to do it. It was weird, but the Emmys managed to do it.
It's going to be weird to see the Oscars with no audience. I wonder if they're going to do like acceptance speeches through Zoom or something.
Yeah, that's what the Emmys did. So we'll see what happens.
Or maybe have them like pre-recorded and just play the one that wins.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind the Emmys setup too much because it's the whole thing of as soon as you win, immediately your family's there to celebrate with. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like how the Schitt's Creek party had like their own setup together.
Dude, Schitt's Creek cleaned up at the Emmys.
Yeah. But I'm kind of giving
watching it yet?
Not yet, but I saw it on Netflix, so
Yeah, all seasons are on Netflix now. They put season 6 up early.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is kind of the awards.
Huh?
Since me, Owen, and Ashley didn't do a video last month, this is kind of me giving the awards update. I don't know if the Grindhouse crowd and our awards crowd will line up, but this is here. But we'll see. But so the next thing we're going to do is something you're half prepared for already. Because I set up the calendar of the order we were going to do things, and it just happens the order is that thing you just rewatched recently is the next thing. Where you went down Ryan Reynolds lane.
Ah.
So you remember what the second one was, don't you?
No.
Oh. Well, that'll be the next one. And we're doing horror remakes. So then these were kind of, well, we'll discuss that when we get there. So yeah, so all this will be continuing as such. The horror versus the reviews. The review for Sandler's new movie should be in the next day or so. And then
I still need to check out Uncut Gems.
Yes, you do. So yeah, and that'll pretty much be the whole month, as long as no other technical difficulties happen. So until then, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think we hit everything.
All right, then I think we're done here.